Hello, and welcome to another episode of Friday with the Chakontas. I am Mr. Chakonta,
Now, Mrs. Chakonta.
and we're back with our series of FWTC Reacts.
Yes.
And yeah, so
All right. We'll get straight into the story. But before we get into that, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for following our channel and subscribing and sharing. If you've been sharing and liking our podcast, we really appreciate your support. If you haven't yet subscribed and this is the first time, please do listen. And if you like it, please subscribe. But if this is the second time you're coming back to us, please don't forget to press the subscribe button.
yeah, and all the other, we'll also put the links of our other social media is it channels? No,
Platforms.
platforms. Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
All the other social media platforms so that you
Following us
following us.
on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Yeah,
Oh, no, I lie. Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, what do you have for us today?
It goes like this.
Yeah.
I met my fiance back at university.
Mm-hmm.
She is very beautiful and a devoted Christian. I guess that's the main reason why we fell madly in love with each other. And she made it known to me early on that I was the first man ever, and we both agreed not to sleep together until we were married.
Mm-hmm.
We graduated, and since her family is out of town, she moved in with me, as we were both job hunting, and unfortunately, we had been jobless for 4 years. However, after many years of searching, she recently secured a job for me and herself in one of the large corporations here with some connections that helped pull some strings. I'll admit it's a well paying job, and things now started going well for both of us, and I finally proposed marriage to her. She said yes, planning to get married end of this year. A few weeks ago, however, I don't usually do this, but I felt like just checking through her phone. Not because I had any reason to, but I guess I just stumbled upon the thought of doing so. I discovered something very horrifying. I found a conversation from a number that looked familiar, and the chat is from as far back as January last year. I politely questioned her about it, and tears just began rolling down her cheeks. I pressed her for answers, and what she told me I could not believe. She said to me that our now boss asked to sleep with her as a condition to get us both jobs, and that since he was a married man, he would never bother her again after the trade off, and he knew that she was engaged. She told me that she was no longer a virgin and that she gave her virginity to our boss because he accepted to employ us in the company. She told me in tears that was the only condition he gave her if we were to be employed. She apologized and said she was vulnerable and desperate and that she made a mistake. She is a very principled lady and I believed her innocence, but I'm really heartbroken. I don't know what to do. I'm starting to feel like calling off everything and walking away, but I really love her and we have been through so much together for a long time. She's seen all my suffering and has always been there. And I can say, apart from this incident, she has been good to me. But what she did a sacrifice worth but was what she did a sacrifice worth making? Question mark.
Yeah, okay.
Where'd you start?
It's a. I don't know where to start from, to be honest, because it seems like a level of trust has been broken, but it looks like she's saying she did it for the cause of their relationship
Mm-hmm.
and their suffering. But I'm just like, is that the best way to navigate that? But again,
Mm.
like I think people who are listening to this sometimes will not fully understand maybe like the dynamics of maybe back home.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the dynamics back home, it's so it's so challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And it's challenging in the sense of, well, you're trying to find a job, you're trying to do something. But again, I think it's less like, are you not gonna do something um unacceptable to get what you need? And
Mm-hmm.
I think this is also why we now look at it from a biblical perspective. If you're a believer and you trust God, why would you do something that is so acceptable in God's sight just to get what you need?
Mm-hmm.
So it basically now shows that okay, God is not he's not able to actually provide for us in this sense.
Mm.
So I have to step in and do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the example we see in what's her name?
Sarah?
Sarah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The example what we see with Sarah, where like they're waiting for a child for so long, and in the process of them waiting for a child, it becomes an issue of where they feel like, "Ah, maybe it's not what God said. Maybe God is looking at it from a different perspective. Maybe it's this other person,
Mm-hmm.
and they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to help God through
Mm-hmm.
these situations." And us as human beings, we try to do that a lot.
Mm.
We try to help God and not continuously wait for Him in the season where He's calling us to wait.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the longer it takes, the more frustrated you get because you're just saying, okay, why is God so silent?
Mm.
We've done everything together. We've done this in the right way and all that stuff. So it becomes an issue of where this decision that she's made is probably, I'll probably say it's more on the side of her questioning her position and her standing with God
Mm.
and what God can do for them
Mm-hmm.
because of,
Mm-hmm.
of, of the time that has elapsed.
Yeah.
So I think this issue is actually even more of a bigger issue than just their relationship.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
actually the relationship that they have with God. And I think it's easier said
Mm.
than done because on our side we can basically just give the advice, but when you're in it,
Yeah.
the temptation to want to do something else is really high
Yeah.
because you're looking at the day in and day out, the bills, the
Mm.
whatever, and you just feel like, oh my days, I have to compromise.
Mm-hmm.
But even in
Mm-hmm.
those senses, like when we're trying to compromise, we have to lean on our faith
Mm-hmm.
because at what cost?
Yeah.
You've gotten the job, but at what cost?
Mm-hmm.
So this is now the situation that they're in. And yeah, I would like you to maybe chime in a little bit on
Yeah.
what you think here.
I mean, what you said is true. I think it does speak a lot about her relationship with God because, initially as he describes her, he says she's a devoted Christian. And so it does really point towards that. And I think it's a tough one. It is a tough one because you're like, how could you? Like you look at it and you're like, but how
Mm-hmm.
could you did you not think about the possible implications of this? What if you fell pregnant? What if what anything? Like there were multiple things that of course the bigger things is God and the relationship that you have with this other gentleman.
Yeah.
But I think for me it's or I guess it's also your moral standards, like how, and it does test you. It is testing you, and what she did was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It was wrong because she had sexual intercourse with a married man. She had sexual intercourse outside of marriage.
Yeah.
And I think it's about putting that on the table and admitting that,
Mm-hmm.
and then recognizing like, okay, so where do I move from here? Because it's very messy. It's a very messy situation, and I think it's very difficult for the guy as well
Mm-hmm.
because not only now do you have a good, well-paid, you've got a good job, and maybe you feel like you got there on merit, but it's almost like you have to sell your girlfriend to get it. And I think with men, there's this element of pride that we know of. How you guys, you do have this sense of pride and the way you feel you feel good when you can provide.
Mm-hmm.
And if this has come through that avenue, it can really break his confidence
Yeah.
and his ability to even perform well, not just at work but even in the house.
Mm-hmm.
I think what she did is a really deep thing, not
Yeah.
only to herself but to her partner.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've already addressed, acknowledging that it's easier said than done from the other side, because it's easy for us to say, how could you? There are other ways you can get money.
Mm-hmm.
But when someone's been looking for a job for 4 years and both of them are unemployed, it's a really tough situation. And it's that temptation that she got given, that temptation. Remember when Jesus was also tested,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been tested, and God says, like he will not give you something more than what you can bear.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she had that test and she kind of, kind of fell for it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whatever happens, God allowed that test to come to her. But I don't know. Like, I think it's acknowledging all of that. I think the question is, what do we do now? Like, we acknowledge that this was wrong. We acknowledge that this was sinful, but now we can't now continue to live in it.
Yeah.
Like, let him feel the pain, because that is painful.
Mm-hmm.
And then moving forward, I think if he's feeling like, okay, it depends when they're due to get married, because he said, I feel like calling everything off.
Yeah.
It is reasonable to put a pause. Doesn't mean that you're not going to marry her. And I don't think it means you shouldn't marry her either. I think maybe it means that you guys need to reevaluate, because you don't want to be going into a marriage with things that are unresolved.
I agree with you on what you're saying about it doesn't mean that you shouldn't marry her. But I think there's a level of what you like you said before, a psychological aspect of where it messes up a man. Especially look, you're working for somebody who you know has slept with your girlfriend, who you know that
The only reason
the
you got
only
the
reason you
job.
got the job is because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're just like, why you don't even want to work anymore.
Yeah.
You don't respect this man. And I think you also, as a believer, you're also called to respect the people who are over the authority over you in your
Hmm.
workplace or anywhere else. So you don't respect this man, and then again, you're just like, okay, it now becomes another angle of where what's the because the contract has been signed on fraudulent terms.
Yeah.
What is the other aspect of where he says for them to stay, she has to continue?
Yeah. Yeah.
And every time he just sees her when she gets called into the office, his mind is going all over the place
Yeah. It's just messy.
and all that stuff. So it's not like it becomes an issue of where how you get in sometimes is not also worth it because it also compromises on how you stay there.
Yeah.
And I think even like that's why like sometimes when you trying to get favors and everything like that, be clear and try to put your integrity first.
Mm.
Because it's not only in this situation, sometimes even like, let's say if you get a dodgy deal,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes because it's so dodgy and you know you're like getting money on the side that you're not supposed to be getting if you would get it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's only lasts for a little bit.
Mm.
But once you get caught out or once it finishes, it becomes an issue because
Mm.
now you want to find because sometimes fast things sometimes is not the best things that
Yeah.
we should be chasing for. And I think sometimes we need to check ourselves in that situation. And I
Definitely.
think this is another thing maybe from like where we come from. The temptation is there. It's a lot
Mm-hmm.
where we want those fast things and like you want to be in a certain position. And I think for him, it's also like now it's like also messing up with his mind and saying, look, 4 years. So if I leave this job, it may be another 4 years before I actually get another job.
Yeah.
So it's also actually hitting him mentally. But again, this is about integrity.
Yes.
And I think I would rather basically encourage you guys to stand on your integrity and grounds that biblical
Yeah.
than live in a position of where
You're
you're
compromising.
compromising and just getting whatever you have to have. But I think there are levels of where we can now like break down where the errors have actually gone here.
Mm.
It starts with the aspect of breaking the aspect of what's the word? They were in a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
so trust has been broken.
Yeah.
One. But not also trust has been broken between the two of them, as you've said. But also you also mentioned on the side of she's now gone into a relationship that's also not acceptable in God's sight, which
Mm-hmm.
is sleeping with a married man,
Mm-hmm.
which is also something that God has commanded against.
Mm.
On top of that, it also shows about having sexual intercourse in the aspects of not in the context of marriage. That's
Mm-hmm.
another situation.
Mm.
So it's just like now says it's just like it's building up to
Mm-hmm.
the point of where, and then on top of that, she actually lied.
She didn't even tell
She
him.
didn't even tell him.
That's true. He had to find
He
out.
had
If
to
he didn't
find
find
out.
out, when would she have said?
Yeah. So it's like it's building a character because I was actually laughing when you're reading it. She's like he said something. She's a very
Beautiful?
No, something about genuine. Is it genuine or honest?
Oh, I can't remember. I'll go
Yeah, there
through
was
it.
a time I was just laughing. I'm just like,
Principled lady.
yeah, I'm just like, that's not principled.
Oh yeah.
That's not a sign of principled.
Yeah.
What
No.
do you think? Do you think that's
No. No.
it?
No. You know when to stand. And the thing is, she could have even told him about the offer. She could have even told him that look, there's this guy who said this, this, this. Sometimes you get so tempted into certain things,
Mm-hmm.
but then the ability to have that honest conversation
Mm-hmm.
with, because I feel like that's some, even if she wasn't gonna do it, that's something she should have told him
Mm.
and say, oh, I got offered a job, but these were the terms. And that could also help to test his integrity
Mm-hmm.
because he
Mm-hmm.
might have said, yes, go ahead
And do it.
and
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's also another side you were saying, like, it's not also, it may be challenging now, but it's not something that people cannot get over.
Yeah.
And I think this is now another issue of why are you getting married? If marriage is based on you getting married, ideally we want to get married with people who have not experienced other things with other people.
Mm.
But in this day and age, I think sometimes we would probably say people have made mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And there has to be an open aspect of where you need to understand that those mistakes probably they made them even when they were not believers or even when they were believers. And
Mm-hmm.
God extended grace and forgiveness towards them.
Mm-hmm.
And if they've come to you repentantly and said, this was my situation in the past, this is what
Mm-hmm.
I did. If God is willing to forgive them, who are you to basically step into that situation and not forgive?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you who's planning on getting married, what happens in the aspect of for better or for worse?
Mm.
If this is worse, where somebody has to cheat on you, does that now mean that you have to break your relationship? What is worse for you?
Mm.
Because again, there's also a side where we say like divorce out because of sexual immorality is something where we understand it, because even like we see the issue of Joseph and Mary,
Mm.
where she gets pregnant in the process of their
Engage.
courtship.
Yeah.
He wanted to put her aside without shaming her
Mm.
until the Lord came and intervened. So there's a process of where you're allowed to do that. But again, there are also clauses in that same situation of where you can put aside somebody and not engage, and especially when you're married.
Mm-hmm.
In the process of your engagement, this is an opportunity now for you to actually think of
Mm.
what for better or worse means to you,
Mm.
because you will be making these vows in the future. If for better or for worse means if she had to do something like this again, how are you going to behave?
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to look at this? And let's say if you had to do certain things like that, because again, sometimes you may also go with the attitude of she's done something, I forgive him, so I have a pass.
Mm.
And I think even the girl may actually think that way,
Mm-hmm.
where she now thinks of she's in a disadvantage because she's basically saying, okay, I've messed up, so for this thing to continue, he can just do anything to me,
Mm.
because she's now feeling so 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 messed up basically,
Mm-hmm.
to the
Mm-hmm.
point of where she feels, and I deserve what's coming next to me. And
Mm.
I think that's also not a good way to think. Well, I think there's another aspect of where you have to repent and also ask God for forgiveness and go through the process of actually owning up from your mistake. If it means church discipline in the context of the church, seek that.
Mm-hmm.
If it means also sometimes most of even just breaking the engagement just for you guys to figure out certain things, because I think that is also a cause for breaking the engagement until we have a clear idea,
Mm.
because we can't just go on as if business is usual,
Mm.
because in this situation it's like something has happened for it to affect us going on as business is usual.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there needs to be able to sit down,
Mm.
because sometimes when you're in the process of thinking about your wedding, you're just thinking about the day and
Yeah.
whatever comes in between. Sometimes where it may
Exactly.
cause you guys to pause. Sometimes You put them aside,
Yeah.
and which sometimes is a good thing.
Mm.
It actually means okay, you can weather the storm. But you see, like through his language, he's basically saying he's actually considering this.
Yeah, he is. He says he loves her.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't just stop loving somebody like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's hard. That's why, even sometimes when you have a breakup, even though it's good that you've broken up,
Yeah.
you still need time to heal and to
Yeah.
get over that relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, no, no. That was it. That was all I was going to add, to be honest. I feel like you've covered quite a lot.
Yeah. So
Um,
what do you think about this situation that happens in I don't know if it's in African countries, but I think mainly you probably see in African countries where it's like the trade-off
what
of
do you
where
mean?
like women sometimes trade off their body to get something.
I think it's everywhere. But I think I do feel like we have a biased view because of, like, your Facebook is surrounded by loads of people that, and so you don't really get a full view of um what it's like globally. So
I
you have
don't. Yeah.
a biased idea, but I do think I think I don't know. I don't know. Where are you coming? Which angle are you coming from?
For
Perhaps you can tell
women,
me what you think, and
women
then
who
I'll be able to add in, because there's many ways many angles we can come at it from.
because there's this issue of where like maybe women in the workplace sometimes have to trade off their body to get ahead.
Mm.
What do you think about it from a general perspective? Do you think that's the best way to get ahead? Do you think that is something that how do you speak, especially let's say if your friend had a situation like that,
Yeah.
how would you advise them and speak to them in that situation?
No, I think it's exactly what you said at the beginning. Integrity, having integrity, being principled.
Mm-hmm.
There are many things that, and I think we start to now seek after material things. We start to now seek after things that make us feel good and make us feel on top,
Mm-hmm.
and we forget about where God is. I mean, with things, if God wants you to be somewhere, He's not gonna, you know, ask you to trade off your body for it. He's not gonna ask you to commit sin
Mm-hmm.
to get there.
Mm-hmm.
It will be a sinless pathway. So if a pathway is asking you to lie, to commit sin, to engage in adultery, to steal,
Mm-hmm.
to do things that are not in line with God's word, then that's not correct. It doesn't mean that that's not where God wants you to be. But that's not the pathway to get there. And I think we do need to be mindful, and remember and stay strong. God's pathway might seem long, but that's correct, and that is the pathway of least problems,
Yeah,
because you don't always see the problems.
Yeah.
And yeah, there is that element. We read stories of even students trading their bodies or trading themselves physically
Yeah.
for better grades. We
Yeah,
do read
yeah.
those stories.
Yeah.
And so that it's in many ways, at university getting a better grade, just so that in future you can get a better. But all of these things are not correct, and it's about holding off, and because things that are sinful or things that feel nice sometimes are the sinful things.
Mm-hmm.
And we just have to. It is part of, it's part of how we're created to have self-control.
Yeah. Ideally, like you're saying, sin is nice. It's a nice thing, but it doesn't tell you the other side of what's gonna come, the consequences of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the situation that I think this is what we get trapped in. We get trapped in by the beauty that it shows, but it doesn't show us the consequences that come in.
Yeah.
So even when we see in the garden, we see like the fruit was desirable and okay to eat, but it did not show what the consequences were.
Mm.
And I think this is how sometimes we see sin. Sin is like, oh, this is lovely. I want to test this. Then we see all the problems that come in the situation. Like you were saying, what if she got pregnant? What if she did all these things? And then those other aspects of a decision that you made can now have a level of consequences that can not amount to that small aspect of what you've basically made.
Mm-hmm.
And I think these are the things that we always need to be aware of.
Mm.
Another question I had, Are they cohabitating?
Oh yeah, they are. It's
And
cheaper.
is it 4 years? They said,
It
or
sounds like
that, or that.
they've been cohabitating for a while, but I don't know if it's 4 years. But he did say we moved in together, and
Mhm.
then I think after I sentenced it, when I read it, it sounded like it was because they were both not working. We
Mm,
graduated, and since her family is out of town, she moved in with me as we were both job hunting.
yeah, and I think
We
those
have
are.
been jobless for 4 years. So yeah, for 4 years they've been cohabitating.
But I'm just like those are also signs, because
Mm.
I'm just saying like, look, how would you be cohabitating for 4 years and you're jobless for 4 years? And I think sometimes also understands like, look, maybe like, yeah, you stay together, but like, I think after some time you just have to come to a position of like, look, there's certain things that we need to make, certain decisions we need to make. Do we need to have money to make the decisions? Us
Mm.
getting married doesn't need to have. Do we need to have money?
Mm.
If we can stay in a relationship for 4 years, why not get married and
Yeah,
try
because
to?
in our country there's that issue of lobola. So maybe getting married like the actual civic center thing is cheap, but the lobola element
But
is
why?
not cheap.
But why is she staying in? Why are they staying together?
Well, because it's cheaper, and
Okay,
also
maybe I'm a.
because it's cheaper for them to stay together because they're both looking for work. So whatever they find, it's easier to put it together. I mean, how else are they gonna
Okay, but
manage?
maybe I'm assuming that, because we may be assuming and jumping the gun. Maybe like they have, because they're saying they're not working.
Yeah, they're not working.
Maybe based on what we can say, if somebody is not working, they may be staying at their parents' house,
Mm-hmm.
an uncle's house, because why are they gonna pay the rent?
No, but I think maybe they haven't gotten their ideal jobs, but they might be doing side hustles to make ends meet.
Do you think they're living together
I
as
think
in?
they're living because he says she moved in with me. No, it sounds like likely he was staying by himself,
Uh-huh.
and then she moved in to stay with him.
Okay, we'll assume that.
Let's assume that,
Let's
and so
assume that.
they
Okay.
make ends meet by maybe doing bits and bobs to make ends meet.
Okay. Okay. Which I think is also a red flag. Do you think?
I don't think it's a. I wouldn't put it as a red flag, but I don't think it's a good thing.
Idea
Yeah, I don't think
to
it's a
do
good
that.
thing.
Yeah.
I think but then it reflects on both of them, so they're both red flagging each other. Because one has
Yeah.
accepted, one has
Yeah.
maybe one invited and one accepted,
Yeah.
but I just don't think it's not a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't encourage it at all.
Yeah.
For many reasons. Although I think one of the things that people do is they do it because it's cheaper, especially in this situation. They can save up money for their ideal wedding,
Yeah.
but it has its whole host of
Problem.
potential problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically like they're married. Like the only thing they're probably not doing is having sex, clearly, and
Mhm.
they haven't registered, but they're now cohabitating, and it's just it's
But
just
yeah.
strings a lot of
Yeah.
problems.
Because from what I'm saying, it's like they haven't had sex from that.
Yeah, it sounds like they haven't, which is
Yeah.
pretty good. I mean,
For
they've
4
been living
years, yeah.
together for 4 years and they haven't had sex. That
Yeah.
is very commendable. It's not easy to be living together with someone that you're attracted to
I know.
and not have sex in 4 years.
Mm. So yeah, this is, it's challenging in the
But yeah,
sense
maybe
of,
it's definitely it is a red. Yeah, I think if a guy invited me, I would say yes. I would probably put him as a red flag.
or to stay with you.
But then it also depends on how, because I wouldn't say I wouldn't be like, oh no, I won't be with you.
Mhm.
But it depends on how he responds, because I think it's also good to be able to understand that in this day and age it is cheaper because
Mhm.
people are now living independently.
Mhm.
Like, a long time ago, men and women used to come from their parents' house straight into a new marriage.
Yeah.
But nowadays people tend to live more independently and then they go and live together. So
Yeah.
there is that element of where if we're now saving up for a house together or we're saving up for a wedding, then this sounds like a cheaper way of doing it. And it is cheaper. But I just
saying,
wouldn't
yeah.
I definitely wouldn't advise
yeah.
it.
I'm just saying it's dangerous.
So many ways, in
It's
so many
dangerous,
ways.
yeah. But we say like maybe
But yeah,
the
just get
danger
married.
that we've seen, like maybe they've escaped it, but that's not the problem at the moment. The problem is the situation. So I think what advice can we give to them in this situation? I think the best thing is probably put off the wedding.
Mm.
get some counseling
Yes.
so that you can basically air out what you feel
Yes.
and address your feelings and not hide. And to the point of where those feelings have to be expressed in a position of where you express how you feel to the point of where it's showing that, okay, this is how I feel. Can you accept how I feel? And what
Mm.
do you respond to my feelings?
Yeah. Yeah.
And both on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. What does sorry mean? I'm
Mm.
upset. What does upset mean? Can we move on? How does this maybe ask this? How does that make you feel that she did this and that and all that stuff? And I think there has to be somebody who can mediate with wisdom to help you guys navigate this situation,
Mm.
because it's like you're now going to counseling
Mm-hmm.
in the process of where like you're it's like you're in a marriage and somebody has done something and now you have to find ways of how to heal.
Mm.
And I think this is a process of where you're saying pause the whole situation and find if it's possible for both of you guys to heal,
Mm-hmm.
because there can be so many things of where you're trying to heal but there's so much anger,
Mm.
and through that anger it now means that you now want to do other things, especially on the guy's side, because he's feeling so hurt. He feels like he needs to respond to that hurt in a way that is not constructive,
Mm.
and it ends up bringing more problems. So they need to be able to talk about it and find counseling.
Mm.
Forgiveness is okay, but you need to be able to forgive truly and move on. And also on this job, I personally say, look, it's hard. I can't tell you
Start
if you
looking for somewhere else.
I
Is that what you want to
can't
say?
I can't tell you to basically do that, because
Mm.
that or my if I was if it was me, I'll probably do that.
Yeah.
This will be probably the condition for us to continue. And I'll be honest, if it was like me and you,
Mm.
I'll tell you we have to leave this job.
Yeah.
And maybe that also shows me maybe I don't know. What do
No,
you
no, no.
think?
I get
If I
you.
gave you a situation and told you
No, just
we have to leave.
yeah. Then I think that also will show where where my integrity lies.
Yeah.
I think that will. But I don't think he wants to leave the job. Did you hear? He's like, oh, I can't. I can imagine. I mean, I have to be honest. His job pays well,
I know.
so I don't think he wants to leave the job. He hasn't mentioned that.
What if I tell you you have to leave and I'm staying?
Yeah, that's fine. I think.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I've done wrong, so I need to be willing to make changes.
Oh, okay. You would leave
Yeah.
and you let me stay.
Yeah.
So what does
Why
that
are you
mean?
shocked?
No, but I'm saying, but it looks unfair.
I went and slept with a married man.
I agree with that, but it's basically saying if you're angry, are you just angry at me or are you
No,
angry
because
at the
if
whole
I need,
situation? Are you okay with that? You got the job, it favored you.
it favors both of us, but it's okay if I leave because now you're gonna be thinking every time I'm speaking to the boss something else is going on. So if I need to cut tie with, and if you want me to show commitment that I am with you and I know that what I did was wrong, and I also need to cut ties with this man, then I'm happy to do that.
But what if don't you think the fair thing is we both leave?
Yeah, but but babe, you're the one who said, "What if you want to leave?" I'm like, yeah, I'm okay leaving, but I'm okay with you staying for a bit so that we can make money because we were broke.
Oh my days. So yeah. So yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
You're surprised that I agreed to leave.
No, I think I'm not surprised because I know you. I think you would leave. But I think, yeah, it's just toxic. To be honest, I just think that job is it's tainted.
Yeah, I think we all need to start looking for
We
a new
just need to
job
start moving away.
and say, okay, you can stay
Yeah.
for 6 months and then you're leaving.
Yeah. And all that stuff, because I'm just like, it's not, even though she's gone, he's still there.
Yeah,
So,
it's a problem.
yeah. And then you end up getting fired because you're talking to him in a bad way, because it's not like because she's gone, the whole situation is out. He's done something. And even from the comments that she said, I know you are engaged. So he did not respect that she was engaged. And this is now somebody who's above you, and you're like, you knew my girlfriend was engaged.
Mm-hmm.
How am I supposed to respect you?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
problem.
It's a problem, yeah. So yeah, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think you've covered a lot. Thank you.
So yeah, no, thank you very much for listening to our react. And yeah, these are I think, yeah, these are very tough situations. So we always say get wisdom that you can. If it's from the people who are in your local church, seek that. For this girl, she can always seek um, people in the church, especially if she moves repentant.
Mm-hmm.
Church discipline is not something that you look at as you're being punished. Church discipline is actually something that's supposed to just help you balance yourself and come back to the faith
Mm.
and show where the weaknesses were, so that when an opportunity comes in the future like this, you're able to be strong again
Mm-hmm.
and understand that as believers we are called to live to a higher standard than the world.
Mm.
So that's the encouragement that we'll share with you guys today. So thank you for taking the time to listen, and we are thankful for all the support that we get from you guys. So yeah, until
Next
next
time,
time, we just say continue to like our videos, the ones we've put, and and also this one. Continue to
share,
subscribe and what,
share.
and also comment, and then yeah. So that's pretty much it. So until next time. So take care of yourselves, and God bless. Bye bye.
Bye.